I mean, the first thing you have to say is congratulations to Pakistan for making that change. You feel they needed to. They'd lost 6 tests in a row. Shan Masood himself had lost all 6 as captain. They were going nowhere. There was real the fans, the supporters were not happy with the way that they were playing. So they made a real drastic change. New selectors, different pitches completely, as in they used the Multan pitch again, complete turner, came here, the unusual tactics here, made it turn. And as Atherton said, they found the kryptonite to Bazball, because they have found spinners that are absolutely of the highest quality. The highest quality. Those 2 spinners have bowled beautifully, and they've got players who play spin really well. So why wouldn't you play on turning pitches? And what it has done is it's exposed England when the ball does spin. So if you go back to Multan, first test match, 800 on a road. You come here 2 years ago on a road in Pindi, 500 in a day, 650, and they win the game. When it spins and when it's gripping, England don't play spin as well as Pakistan, and their spinners don't bowl spin as well as Pakistan. And then they are very vulnerable, and Pakistan have jumped on that, seized, and won the series.
Staggering difference 2 players have made.
Well, exactly. On commentary, I said I couldn't think of a time when 2 players have come in mid-series and made such an impact. I mean, we talked about Chris Woakes and Mark Wood last year. England were 2-0 down. Woakes and Wood came in at Headingley. Dramatic turnaround there. But, of course, England didn't go on to win the series, although they might have done had it not rained in Manchester. But to think that the effect that Noman Ali and Sajid Khan have had on this series, England scoring 800 in that first test match. And think of Harry Brooks' series, a 100 there, and I think he's got, what, 360 or 70 for the series, having made 300 in that first test. So really, in that small microcosm of Brooks' series, is England's series writ large, because when the ball has spun, as Nasser said, the batters have struggled to cope, as they did in India in the 5 test match series earlier in the year. And Shoaib Bashir, the young spinner, and Jack Leach, more experienced spinner, have been completely outbowled by Noman and Sajid. And they've been beautiful to watch, actually. They're very different. Sajid, I mean, cricket, it reveals character, and you can see exactly what character Sajid Khan is from the way that he plays. He's very expressive, very passionate, but as we've been saying, still very smart as well, street smart. And Noman Ali's a bit more of an old-fashioned flight and guile bowler. And between them, they've been brilliant. And with the bat, don't forget.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. There should be a discrepancy, because the pitches have been so different from the first test to the second and third. There's no doubting there should be, scores should go down and spinners should go up. But the discrepancy in the England side is a concern. It shouldn't be so drastic that you play so well on flat pitches and you can hit through the line, and the moment it then grips, you can't play like that, and so you're then a little bit lost. And 3 of your top 6 seem to be lost in those conditions. I'm talking about Crawley when it grips and you have to work it into areas like Saud Shakil did, or Pope, who's got hard hands and doesn't know how to work it into areas like Saud Shakil did, or the spinners, Stokes in Asia, his last 10, as he came in, I read out his last 10 scores. They are very low in these conditions, and he used to be one of our best players of spin. If you think about it, some of the innings he's played, but in these conditions, when it's gripping a little bit, he seems a bit lost. And then I go to the 2 spinners, and I'll compare Leach, because I think Bashir at the moment is an unfair comparison. But Leach must look at their left-arm spinner, Noman Ali, and look at his changes of pace and his beautiful, subtle variations, and the way he outthinks batters and deceives them in the air before it lands. And yet Jack, year after year, ball after ball, over after over, Jack Leach runs up and bowls it at the same pace, and thinks that the wicket will do the rest. So
he's had some success doing it that way, though, hasn't he? I mean, he's leading wicket taker in this one.
Well, he was before these 2 rocked up. They'd only played 1. They've played 2. He's played all 3. So he's bowled okay. But I stood here yesterday at lunchtime and said, England have done well off the field. You cannot doubt the selections they've made, the likes of Jamie Smith, Gus Atkinson, Rayan Ahmed. There's a long list of them that have come in and done well. But within that side, I want to see a bit more learning. You can't just be, that's the way I play. When it comes onto the bat, I'm going to smash it, we're going to get 500 a day. When it grips a bit, then what am I going to do? What's Crawley going to do? What's Pope going to do? What's Stokes going to do? What's Leach, Bashir, Rayan Ahmed going to do? So I just want to see a bit of improvement and learning when the pitches do grip.
We'll come back to that. I just want to touch on what Shan Masood and Jason Gillespie might be feeling now. Obviously delighted, they've won the series, they needed those victories. But the method that Gillespie was talking about and the clear route he wanted to have when he came in and took the job has actually been handed to him by a change of selection panel, who even came down here and oversaw the preparation of this
He's a
pitch.
pretty calm bloke, Jason Gillespie. He's not the kind of guy to throw the toys out of the pram. I think he recognises that that's the way it is. There's no point fighting that. You either decide whether you can live with that, and if you can live with that, his job as coach is to try and get the best out of the players. I think it's more significant for Shan Massoud. 6 defeats on the bounce. If you lose that 7th in Multan in the second test match from a very strong position, I think that's almost a position from which you cannot come back as a captain if you lose another series at home. So that was a hugely important victory for him. And as we know, that captaining a national side comes with its pressures and its difficulties, but what we never experience is doing it here in Asia, in Pakistan, where cricketers tend to carry a lot more expectation and pressure than English cricketers ever do. So, yeah, I mean, a good result for him. It gives him a lot of breathing space. And also now Pakistan have a template for winning at home. I think for any test match team, you have got to be strong at home, and then you search for ways to adapt your game and win abroad. But if you're losing at home, then that's very difficult. So they've got that template now with the pitches spinning. They can spin. They've got the spinners to do it. Settle on that and then work out how to adapt abroad.
We were out with a few Pakistan fans and people involved in Pakistan cricket last night, and that is what they've liked about the last couple of weeks. They said to us and said, at least we've got a plan. For once we see a plan, whether it's unorthodox plans with patio heaters and massive, fans or whatever.
Don't forget the nails and the rake.
Everything. We see a plan. For the previous couple of years, there was no plan, or if you had a plan, it would last a week and then they'd change. Green tops, not green, captain, coach, selectors come and go. At least they see a plan, and that plan has worked. They in fact didn't mind if they lost today. But as long as you've got a plan, that is all you can ask from your team and your board. And they have switched that plan mid-series, and it's paid dividend.
It'd be fascinating to know what and how Ben and Brendon say to the team in terms of going forward.
Well, I think, first of all, England don't come back to the subcontinent until February 2027. I think they go to Bangladesh in February 2027. But so there's going to be a lot of cricket that's very different to here. England will go to New Zealand next, then Australia. They play India at home, and that's not going to be in these kind of conditions. But they still have to go back to the subcontinent at some point, even if it's 18 months, 2 years away, a bit more than 2 years away. So there has to be a sense of, right, well, we've got to do something a little different, because if you lose 4-1 in India and then you get beaten 2-1 here when the pitches start to spin, you have to say, well, how can we learn from this and how can we improve? I mean, surely that is the role of anybody in a team. If things aren't going your way and you're losing in a repetitive way, you say, how can we get better? How can we improve? So by the time England go to Bangladesh in February 2027, then they'll have to think that way, because what other teams will have done is look at this and they'll say, Nasser used the word kryptonite there for Bazball, and it's, when the pitches do a bit, it's not quite so easy to bang away at 5 and 6 and over, and other teams will look at that and will surely, certainly in Asia, try and prepare these kind of pitches, so you've got to be prepared for it yourself.
But isn't there a lesson to learn there, that England focus, all we ever hear about is the Ashes. The Ashes away. The Ashes away. We play so many series before the Ashes, and conditions here are so different from Australia. So even someone like Zach Crawley, Zach's position should come under threat. But when I say that, people say, well, I think he'll be all right in Australia. Well, that doesn't matter here this month. How are you going to play this month? I think Brendon himself said about Zach Crawley, his game suited to being inconsistent. Well, last summer he was a bit more consistent in English conditions. How are you going to be consistent in these conditions? Ollie Pope, how are you going to be consistent in these conditions? You can't be feast or famine. So it can't all be about one series every 4 years away from home. There's a lot of you're almost you're almost not taking Pakistan seriously or India seriously. You've got to be across the board.
I just slightly disagree, actually, on the selections England have made. If you think of the selections when they won here 3-0, Will Jacks and Liam Livingstone pick for their bowling as much as their batting. Very occasionally they pick one seamer and a whole heap of spinners. So I think in terms of the selection, they have tried to go horses for courses. They're playing one seamer here and 3 mainline spinners with Root as a 4th. So I think they're aware of that. They know they can't just come and bang away with 4 seamers.
I said that here yesterday. I said off the field they're making good decisions. What about within that team?
Yes.
With that batting lineup in
Sure, then that's what I was coming to, just to say that there has to be an adaptability there. But I think it would be wrong to kind of say, well, England are just picking a team that, you know, that would win at home or win in Australia, just thinking about Australia in 12 months' time, because they've obviously picked a very different balanced side here, but they haven't within that played or adapted as well as they could have done.
Ben, thanks for your time. How would you sum up that Test match from England's point of view?
I think it's pretty. You look at the last two games, we got thrown, you know, some challenges at us, and I think throughout the two games, a good way to be able to reflect on it is that we just weren't able to stand up to those challenges that Pakistan threw at us. That's the great thing about, you know, Test cricket is that it's always throwing challenges at you. You learn, you know, definitely a lot about yourself as a player and as an individual about your attitude when those challenges are thrown at you. And the quickness and time that we've got to come over those and then go to New Zealand and face a new challenge, you know, that's obviously from a player's point of view, is such an exciting bit that we've got 2 weeks now to sort of go home, refresh ourselves, and then look forward to New Zealand. But that doesn't take away, obviously, the disappointment of losing games and losing series for England.
What were the specific challenges you reckon that you fell short of in this last two Test matches then?
I mean, look, it's very easy to you know, sit there and say at the end when everything's unfolded that, you know, could we have done things a little bit different comparing ourselves to how Pakistan went about it. But, you know, when you walk out on the field, you know, we're all very clear and have complete and utter clarity in how we think we need to go about it out there, which best suits us as players and as individuals. And I'm sure Pakistan would have been the same. But when you can't stand up to those challenges as much as you would like to, you're probably going to fall on the wrong side of the, you know, of the result. And that's certainly what's happened these last two games.
Been quite a lot of cricket in the subcontinent in the last, well, 3 or 4 years now, but it ends really here, that you don't come back to the subcontinent until February 27, I think, in Bangladesh. So there's a bit of time to reflect about playing in these conditions. Over the course of the India series and here, I think you've lost 6 out of 9 games when the ball has spun. Would it be fair to say that the high-risk strategy that you employ has been found wanting in these conditions?
Look, I think it gets... When it comes off, it's obviously it's spoken about in terms of it's a great way to counteract what the opposition is throwing at you. And I'm never someone to ever live in hindsight, because you can never go back and change what decision or what's happened. You know, we've seen on quite a few occasions where that approach has worked for us, has worked for individuals, but you can't go back and change it. You know, it's one of those things where you walk out to bat. Most of the time you are going to get out, and it's giving yourself the best chance that you feel is going to allow you to go out there and be successful. You'd rather it work more times than not, but definitely in these last 2 Test matches our approach hasn't paid off for us, but that doesn't mean that we've doubted ourselves in our ability or how we wanted to go out there and play.
We've looked at the way that you've selected a team here, which has generally, in terms of the bowling, been very horses for courses. You might just play one seamer and a whole host of spinners. But the batting lineup tends to stay the same. Why is there not more of perhaps a horses for courses approach when it comes to the top 6 as well? Or is there, and you just feel that these are the best players in the conditions?
Well, yeah, best players in England. You know, when you take, you know, very small, minute, you know, games or series and use that to assess about what you're going to do going forward, it's a pretty cutthroat way to go about it. You know, we've got some batsmen who've come off, you know, a really good summer, got some hundreds and some good scores that allowed us to be successful throughout our English summer. So look, you always sit there and you pick your best players, and it's down to the individual and the player to go, right, where are we playing our cricket now? How am I going to give myself the best chance of going there and be successful in those conditions? You know, we play all around the world. Going to New Zealand in a couple of weeks' time is going to be completely different. But there's no doubt in my mind, no doubt in Brendon's mind, that we have got the best top 6 players in England.
I can ask about your own form as well. I mean, it's an extraordinary dismissal in some ways today, you know, a sense of uncertainty, I suppose, in the middle. And obviously over the last 4 years in Asia, your own batting numbers have declined a little bit compared to your batting overall. Have you looked at how you've been playing spin and the struggles against spin? And do you think you need to adapt and evolve and improve?
I'm always trying to evolve and adapt as a player, whether we be against spin, whether we get pace. I've played so much cricket that the disappointment, it always is there, it always hits hard, but when you've got so much experience to fall back on, it's sort of a little bit easier to take. You guys have been down here at training, you're always watching us throughout. You see how hard everyone works on all aspects of their game, and sometimes those things just don't fall right for you. But when you look back and you go, maybe I haven't trained as hard, maybe I haven't given myself the best chance, that's when you probably need to look and go, right, do I need to work harder? But I can safely say for myself, for everyone else up there, that everyone, with the opportunities they've been given to become better players in the time that we've had out here, we've definitely done that.
And just going back to the batting, there's a fair bit of scrutiny falling on Ollie Pope, who's had a poor series, Zach Crawley, who's had a poor series in these conditions. Are these places set in stone because you've got a grander plan about what's coming up, say, in 18 months' time in Australia, or are you open to change?
I think you've got to be. You can't shut the door on everything, because then you're just being very single-minded towards what you want to do. But going back to the point before, there's no doubt in my mind that we have got the best top six batsmen in England. Sometimes, guys will reap the rewards of performing well out in the middle, and unfortunately some other guys will miss out. The great thing is that team sport's always greater than the individual. We're always trying to work towards the greater good, which is of the team. And how you deal with disappointment, how you deal with failure, I think is a massive part of you as an individual, and how you overcome that, and then looking to move forward and go again in New Zealand.
Could I ask you about some of your tactics in the field, not least when South Shakil was building his 100. He only hit 4 boundaries. Now, you had your catches in place, as you do, but we're very used to see you having, let's say, mid-off, long on, up a bit of a tempter, but you actually put them back a bit more and he scored a lot of singles. Do you think you could have put a bit more pressure on him to actually find the boundary as opposed to just knock it around? And also, Rayan bowled beautifully up to lunch, and then he started with Atkinson, and then he brought Rayan on at this end. Could you just talk us through those decisions?
Yeah, look, Saud's, he's had some success against us out in Pakistan, in particular last series in here, but never hurt us in terms of the game moving forward, if that makes sense. And we just always felt so close. There was a couple of times where the balls were keeping low, or a little inside edge here and there. You just always felt so close. And you'll two know, as batsmen, you do need a little bit of luck to go your way to be able to score runs, particularly on difficult wickets. But to be honest, I thought the big turning point was actually when Sajid came out and obviously decided that he's going to go out there and try and get quick runs and put us under the pressure. And I think that was the real tipping point of the game. But yeah, you've got to react to what's in front of you at the time, out in the middle. As I said before, I can't go back and change what I've done. And like the way that I used Rayan was exactly how I would always use him, to come on and to try and break the game open when I feel like it needs to. And yeah, we just felt like we had to change the pace with Gus. That's why you got him in the team, try and change the pace of the game, and then look to bring Rayan back again. But yeah. He performed really, really well for us and opened the game up. But
you're always looking to learn. I don't want to look back, but you're always looking to learn. What about the lower order runs that Pakistan have scored in this series? Because that has really hurt you. You mentioned Sajid and he's come at you. Is that an area of concern? I mean, you obviously haven't got Mark Wood's express pace to call upon, but that's hurt you badly in this series, their lower order.
Yeah, I mean, same, you look at our innings with that innings, that the partnership that Gus and Jamie put on as well. They're so important, and sometimes the thing about lower orders is that there isn't that sort of pressure on you to get those, so it takes a little bit of pressure off you. On other days, hit one straight from the air, the game looks completely different, but you've also got to throw credit to that innings he played yesterday. I thought was pretty good, massively changed it and quickly.
What can you take from this series?
Well, look, me, Baz, we always try to take the positives out of series, whether that's bad in this instance. There's been some unbelievable individual performances, Joe, Harry in that first innings, and Rayan coming back into the team and bowling the way that he did again is a great side moving forward for English cricket, not just in our side but in the white ball setup as well. And I thought Bash learned on the job. I said to him, what a better way to be able to become a better cricketer when you're actually out in the middle learning, your craft. So look, we've been exposed to some pretty tough conditions, and now we need to face up to those, assess what's gone on, but in 2 weeks' time we're on a plane to New Zealand, so we need to get rid of those disappointments pretty quick.
You mentioned just a couple of questions, if I may. You mentioned New Zealand there, very different conditions. Captains don't always know how and when to bowl themselves. Some bowl themselves too much, some under-bowl themselves. You didn't bowl at all yesterday. Why? And presumably thinking ahead to New Zealand, you're looking forward to taking much more of a kind of full-on all-rounders role there.
Yeah, I think it was part and parcel with what was the biggest threat, and that to me was always going to be spin. Because I think maybe about 11 overs in the game, so those overs of seam were always, I personally thought, were going to be more threatening than mine. I thought when he came on, he actually did look threatening just because he was able to run away and completely bash the same length over and over again. But when Gus or myself felt like it was getting a little bit easier for them because they were getting the pace of the wicket, that's when we turned back to spin. So you got to obviously understand when you are going to use yourself. That second test match, I came on when the ball was reversing, whereas out here when the ball's not doing that much in the air off the wicket and the ball's spinning, to me that was a sensible option to take.
Final question. You talked about the conditions and obviously the attempts to get the pitch to spin. Second test match, a reused pitch. Here's some quite unorthodox things done to the pitch beforehand. Any complaints?
No, not at all. Those were the challenges that I was on about that got thrown at us. Obviously, the second test on a used wicket and this wicket here, they tried to get the pitch to be able to spin as much as possible, and that's just using home conditions in your favour. I've got no complaints about that whatsoever. I guess that's what playing at home is for. You try and sway the game towards yourself as much as possible. But look, maybe this is Pakistan's way forward of producing results at least, because obviously the last series here we won 3-0, but there was a lot of tinkering and trying to manipulate the game in our favour. But look, two guys there with the spin, Sajid and Noman, you've got to hold your hands up and just say they've been really, really good these last two games.
Pakistan have won this test match and indeed the series, and they've done it comprehensively this morning. 112 England were bowled out in their second innings, which was a lead of just 35, and Pakistan knocked them off in 3 overs. So they won this test match by 9 wickets and the series 2-1, having gone 1-0 down in that first game in Multan. Nasser and I are joined by Brendon McCullum. We appreciate your time. Can we deal just with this morning? What did you make of the batting this morning?
Well, we didn't bat long enough, unfortunately, but I thought the way that Brookie and Joe started was good. I think probably Brookie in particular probably adjusted his game plan where he wanted to open up the offside a little bit more to try and put some pressure on. But look, in the end, credit to Pakistan. The way that those two spinners, Naman and Sajid, bowled was superb. They were brave enough to make decisions on their personnel, and they were brave enough to make decisions on the surfaces that they wanted to play on. And I'm surprised it's taken this long for them to play on surfaces like that over here, because they were very good. I thought they varied the pace beautifully. I've seen Noman from one end taking pace off most of the time with the occasional fast one, and Sajid flipping that around and putting pace on with the occasional slow one. I thought it was great partnership bowling, and and our guys weren't able to sustain it, the pressure, unfortunately. But that's life, and we obviously coughed up the opportunity to win the series, but we did some good stuff throughout, and we leave ultimately disappointed, but also very much complimentary of how Pakistan played.
Absolutely. Your captain after the last test match said he would have liked the batsmen perhaps to have adapted a little quicker when the pitch really started to spin. Do you think the batsmen could have adapted a bit quicker in these conditions?
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought the first innings were actually probably par. I thought our score was decent on the back of what Jamie Smith was able to do with the tail and the power that he showed. I thought when it came to second innings, Pakistan probably got too many runs with the bat, which obviously we all know that when you're batting behind the game on a surface which is a bit challenging, the pressure of that can have an effect on you at times. And if we had a 50, 60 run lead, then how would that have looked, knowing that we were going to be able to set them a competitive total in the last innings? But look, that's just the nature of the game, right? And I think we've been a subcontinent over the last 2 years. We've played 10 test matches, we've won 5, we've lost 5. On the balance, it's okay, but we know within ourselves that we've had an opportunity to have been better than that, and we're a little bit disappointed about that.
specifically with someone like Zach Crawley, you've backed him big time, and we know the reasons why you've backed him. But in the subcontinent, like in this series, he was out 4 times to the same bowler. Is that an issue? I mean, you pick him for, say, English conditions, New Zealand conditions, where you're going next for the Ashes or whatever. Or could you go down a bit more horses for courses, like you played 3 spinners here and 2 seamers, and you played 1 seamer before? Can you be a bit more horses for courses in the subcontinent?
Look, I think, like, for instance, Zach, he was brilliant in India for us, right? In extreme spinning conditions, he was as good as anyone in that series with bat in hand. So, you know, I think sometimes guys, they get in a rut sometimes, and particularly in spinning conditions. It's, you know, a bowler might have it over you, and you find it a little bit more difficult to be able to break that cycle, and that can happen in these kind of conditions. But I have no doubt, and the skipper has no doubt, that our batting group that we've now had together for the best part of 18 months is the best that we've got, and we're very confident. We've just got to make sure we keep allowing guys to develop and keep sort of becoming the players that they want to become, and we'll benefit from that. I think it's also is recognition. Whilst, you know, we may play on spinning wickets in the next couple of years, we actually won't come back to the subcontinent for a couple of years. So, you know, hopefully in a couple of weeks' time, when we get to New Zealand, we come up against New Zealand on surfaces which will be a little bit more to our liking, then we'll give ourselves an opportunity to bounce back.
You say to your liking there, but the point of a side is to try and win in all conditions. The areas you can improve, maybe sometimes you can look at opposition players and see the way they play. Saud Shakil defended straight and scored square. He put his ego away, even when Ben Stokes had men on the boundary, never took them on. Scored 70 of his runs in singles, just 4 boundaries. But the way he used his hands and manipulated the ball, as opposed to sometimes our lads are a little bit hard hands and going at it. Noman Ali with the drop makes it very difficult. And then also the reverse of that, you've spoken about their 2 spinners and how beautifully they varied their pace. Could your spinners learn a little bit from the opposition and try that? Or are you just a product of your environment and that's the way we play?
No, of course not. I think, you know, I think when it comes to how Saud Shakil played in this innings, honestly, I thought it was a brilliant innings. I thought he was almost death by 1,000 cuts. He was able to deflect the ball beautifully to both sides of the wicket. He was able to rotate strike, and he got some helping hands from Noman and Sajid at the end there as well with bat in hand. So, you know, you've got to, at that point in the game, I felt like we were possibly in front, and if we were able to make a breakthrough there and be able to take a lead, then I think we would have been in a lot stronger position. But and the outcome may have been different, but, you know, guys are allowed to play well against you as well, and, you know, we've seen the numbers that Saud Shakil's got in the subcontinent and the numbers that he's got playing against spin, and he's very effective at it, and you know, that's his strength. And just conversely, it might be different in seaming conditions and what that approach would be. So it's
and the bowling of spin, the varying of pace and learning from them?
Yeah, again, I thought they were brilliant in the way they bowled together, and they challenged in different methods with the paces that they used. And, you know, could we have been better? Yeah, of course you can, right? Even any time you lose a test or lose a series, you've got to look back and you've got to have that period of reflection, and we'll do that. It's not, you know, we'll have a look and say, right, next time we're presented with conditions similar to that, how will we respond? What do we need to do? Do we need to vary our pace more? Do we need to adjust our tactics more? And that's natural, right? No different to when a batsman gets out. One thing I will say about the batting group as well is it's pretty much the same batting group that came here 2 years ago and were outstanding in these conditions, and the same batting group that put on 800 in the first test match. As the conditions changed, we were presented with different challenges, and we weren't quite able to adapt to those challenges, and that's a missed opportunity. Well,
that's the key, though. I was going to say, are you okay? You played on a reused pitch and you played on a raked pitch. Okay, cool? Yeah,
I kind of like it, to be honest, Wardy. I think, you know, when teams come to England, ideally we play on the surfaces that we're more accustomed to, the surfaces which allow our strengths to really flourish, and maybe even paper over some of the weaknesses as well, which every team naturally has. And I think, you know, I'm a little bit surprised it's taken Pakistan as long as what it has to prepare wickets like this, because when you go to Sri Lanka, India, Bangladesh, the ball is always going to turn. So what we had here a couple of years ago where it didn't really turn, and what we had in that first test match where it was pretty flat, was a different challenge. But it'll be interesting to see over the next couple of years in Pakistan cricket whether they persist with these types of surfaces. But certainly no excuses from our point of view. We had our chances and we ran second.
Going forward to the conditions that you'll find New Zealand, back to the UK, and then obviously to Australia. Therefore, how impressed have you been? He wasn't playing in this Test match, but Brendon McCullum and what he offered you.
Yeah, he was super. I heard a lot about Brendon, sort of from various guys and coaches and scouts and that around the scene, and they all said to me, "You're going to love him." And you know, once he's got into this environment, I do love him. He's great because he runs in, he bowls, you know, high pace. He challenges. He's got an awkward action. He gets good bounce, and he's a full-hearted cricketer. And you know, he's someone that he won't shirk it. The testing challenge that. The test that he was challenged by in these first 2 Test matches in 40-degree temperature on a docile wicket, and he never shirked it. And you know, when you add skill with heart and investment, then you give yourself every chance. And he's now added himself to what we're hoping is a battery of fast bowlers that we can call upon to play the style of cricket that we want to play. So a really successful tour for him.
What else do you take? Sorry, go on.
And as a wicketkeeper batter yourself, Jamie Smith, how impressed were you in these conditions? Heat, having to get you out of a hole first innings, the way he played, the way he's kept. I know he's put 1 or 2 down, but he's been a real find for you.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you know, some people may point to a drop catch here or there, but you know, I thought the way he kept in that second Test was those conditions are as hard as you'll find. And as a former keeper, you sit there and you're so nervous for him every ball, because it's like, how does he just keep doing what he's doing? And he did a great job. He's obviously disappointed to have missed that catch, but he's showing how important he is, particularly with bat in hand. I think his keeping's excellent, but his skill with the bat and his ability to be able to work with the tail and to be able to put pressure on the bowlers. Without that innings of his in that first innings, then we're well under par. He gave us a fighting chance, and he's done that already in a short period of time. So he's a player that, as you head into the conditions that we're heading in, you would think they will continue to suit his style of play, and he'll continue to have more of an impact on the game for us.
Well, you'll be challenged by your countrymen in a few weeks' time, because they seem to be going all right at the minute.
Yeah, they're going good, aren't they? It's a hard place to tour as well. So they're going well. It's going to be a great tour, and we're probably lucky, to be honest, lads, because I think, you know, to sit on this one for too long whilst you've got to be honest and you've got to have that period of reflection, and it's an inward reflection. It's not a sit around and talk to you lot about, you know, what the things we need to do right. It's you've got to have that period of reflection and work out ways that you can keep sort of adding to what you've already done so well previously. But to now have a couple of weeks to be able to get back out there and get back on the horse and have another go at it, and hopefully get back to that feeling that we had after the first Test match, and to get back to the style of play that we're probably more accustomed with, is a great opportunity. So yeah, it's going to be a good couple of weeks coming up, and then a good 4 or 5 weeks after that.
Just a final question for me. The thing out there, the conception out there will be that your side play well when the ball's coming onto the bat, you can hit through the line. You know, the kryptonite to Bazball is getting spinning pitches, turning square, and that does you. That does you in a little bit as a batting unit, as a bowling unit. It's all well and good saying the conditions we're going to find in the future will be different. What people may want to hear is what you're going to do when it's like this again in the future. All they want to know is, are you looking to improve? Are you looking to get better in these conditions? Are you constantly working to improve that side of your game?
Yeah, of course you do. I mean, we all know what it's like. You're always trying to get better, right? Like, you're always trying to improve. You got to be really careful that you're not seeking perfection, because it doesn't exist in an inconsistent game. There's times, as we all know, like, it could be in the form of your life and you nick off, or you get run out, and then you get a bad decision or something. The next thing you feel like you had 2 or 3 failures, and that can eat away your confidence. So you're always looking to improve. You've got to be realistic about the game that we play is going to come with periods where it's not going how you want it to play, but you've still got to hold firm. You've got to never flinch through those moments and just keep persisting to where you want to get to, and eventually you end up in the space where you're completely comfortable with who you are as a player, and that's our job as coaches, is to try and accelerate that process so that the guys feel like they're there maybe quicker than they would have got without us around. So, you know, we will be confronted with spinning conditions at some stage in the future, and we hope that some of the lessons, good and bad, that we've had throughout this series will give us a bit more of a base to be able to be successful in. But you know, that's the beauty of this game, is there's so many opportunities out there. You just got to keep striving towards them, learn the lessons. Don't let your confidence drop too much, but just keep pushing forward and look forward to the next the next crack. I think it was Babe Ruth said sometimes, you know, you just got to keep stepping up to the plate and swinging. And you know, I'm not saying go out there and swing, but I'm saying you got to step up to the plate and have another go. And that's the courage that you need. And that's one of the messages which will be to the lads as we embark on our next assignment.
Thank you for speaking to us, and safe travels.
Well, thank you, lads.
Enjoy.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for coming over.
Thanks.
What did you take from, I know you were listening to what Ben said when I was speaking to him with Michael Atherton, and when you've been speaking to Brendon just there, anything that stand out for you?
No, it's never an overreaction from the team. I think this is the second series they've lost with Bazball, with this coaching setup and captaincy setup. They lost a series in India and they've lost a series here, and that can't be coincidence. And it's all well and good Brendon saying, well, last time we were here we got 500 in a day and we won 3-0, and first test we got 800. They were completely different conditions and pitches to this. So why do you think they changed it, Pakistan? Not only did it suit their game, they realised that it doesn't suit England's game. A lot of England batters have hard hands. Saud Shakeel is brought up in Karachi. This would have just been another pitch for him. You know, Noman Ali is brought up on flat pitches in Pakistan. He does people before it lands. So that's all. That's why I asked that last question. What fans and people want to know is, are you learning? Are you improving? Or are you just saying, that's the way we play? And if it's our day and if it's coming onto the bat, we'll go and get 500. Or we'll get 800 and Brook will get 300 and Root will get 250. And if it spins, that's the question. Before this test match, lads, if it spins, what are you going to do? Jack, what are you going to do? Have you watched their left arm spinner who's going 70k, 70k, 80k, 70k, 70k? Have you watched their off spinner Bash who's going 80k, 80k, 70k? Are you watching their young batter from Karachi, Saud Shakeel, who's not hitting it with hard hands? You look at Zach in the first 3 innings he played against Noman Ali. Zach Crawley was driving on the up and getting caught cover, nick, and caught slip. And same with Ollie Pope yesterday, driving out in front, lunging out in front with a ball that's dipping. Are you seeing how Saud Shakeel is manoeuvring that ball on the offside? Listen, if I was a captain or a coach, that's what or even a fan, that's why I'd be interested. Mistakes happen. Part of sport is mistakes. You speak to any great coach or leader, it's not knocking the mistakes, because then you put fear in your side. And that's why McCullum and Stokes speak the way they do. They don't want to knock them and hit their confidence, because that makes a fearful side. But the flip side of that, you've got to learn. You got 2 in the top 3 that are averaging 32, Crawley, and Pope 34. 2 in the top 3, right? You've got Ben Stokes, who's not quite done it in these conditions recently. So that's 3 in the top 6. You've got a left-arm spinner that bowls 1 pace, an off-spinner who's still learning his trade, and a leg spinner that doesn't bowl much in first-class cricket. And that's why you're losing here. That's why you're losing in the subcontinent. It's not an easy place to come and win. But as long as you're learning and improving, that's all you can ask from a team. So the next time, we're not going to play in these conditions for a long time anymore. We'll be all right in New Zealand, we'll be all right in Australia, we'll be whatever, in England. What I want to hear is, from every situation, you see it as a learning opportunity. And I want that team to sit there on their flight home or whatever they're doing. That's fine, we won't see that again for a while. That's not us. Is if we come in these conditions again, we will be better, and that's all you can ask of a team.